There is a strange kind of panic that happens in a garden. A plant begins to droop. The leaves lose their posture. The tomato that looked strong last week now hangs as if it has been left in the sun too long. The hydrangea seems tired. The basil in the pot looks soft around the edges, and the first instinct is almost automatic. Give it more water. For millions of home gardeners, that reaction feels responsible. Water is life. Dry soil kills plants. A garden in summer looks vulnerable, so the hose comes out, the watering can fills, the sprinkler runs again, and the gardener walks away feeling that something good has been done. Yet in many gardens, the damage begins right there. The mistake that kills plants slowly is watering by habit instead of watering by soil need. It usually appears as frequent shallow watering, daily watering, or watering again because leaves look tired. It feels gentle. It feels safe. It feels like care. Beneath the surface, it can create one of the most destructive conditions in a garden. Roots begin to weaken. Soil stays wet where it should breathe. Oxygen disappears from the spaces between soil particles, and the plant starts to collapse while the gardener keeps giving it the very thing that is making recovery harder. University extension guidance is clear on the mechanism. Plant roots need oxygen in the soil to function. When pore spaces that should hold air become filled with water for too long, roots can suffocate, decline, rot, and lose their ability to absorb water and nutrients. The confusing part is that overwatered plants often look thirsty. Yellowing leaves, wilting, scorch, leaf drop, and dieback can resemble drought stress, which leads many people to water even more. That is why this mistake is so dangerous. It does not announce itself honestly. A plant dying from too much water can look like a plant begging for water. To understand the problem, imagine the root zone as a living neighborhood underground. Roots are searching for moisture, minerals, and oxygen. Fungi, bacteria, worms, and organic matter are part of the exchange. Healthy soil has structure. It contains tiny openings where water moves and air remains available. When watering is done correctly, moisture moves down through that structure and gives roots a reason to grow deeper. When watering is too frequent and too shallow, the surface gets wet again and again while the deeper root zone may never receive a proper soak. The plant learns to live near the surface where conditions are unstable. A hot afternoon then dries the top layer quickly, and the plant becomes more dependent on the next light watering. The gardener sees a weak plant and thinks the solution is more attention. In reality, the plant has been trained into weakness. Texas A&M AgriLife guidance describes light daily sprinklings as harmful because they may wet less than an inch of soil and do little for plants growing in hot, dry soil. Iowa State Extension gives similar advice, recommending slow, deep, infrequent watering that moistens the soil at least 5 or 6 inches down. Illinois Extension warns that shallow watering of only 1 to 3 inches encourages shallow root growth and can harm long-term survival. This is where many gardens begin their quiet decline. The surface looks cared for. The mulch is damp. The gardener has been out every evening with the hose. Yet below that surface, the plant may be living with a small, fragile root system. It has moisture near the top, then heat, then moisture, then heat again. The deeper soil, where resilience should develop, remains underused. A strong garden usually comes from a different rhythm. Water slowly, water deeply, then let the soil move toward dryness before watering again. That does not mean neglect. It means paying attention to the ground rather than the calendar. The old rule of 1 inch of water per week exists because it gives gardeners a starting point, especially for many landscapes and edible crops. The Environmental Protection Agency notes that landscapes often require about 1 inch of water weekly, including rainfall, though local weather, plant selection, and region matter. University of Minnesota Extension gives a more practical adjustment. Sandy, well-drained soils may need water twice a week, while heavier clay or loamy soils rich in organic matter may need watering once a week. Mulch can reduce the need because it helps soil retain moisture. The real test is simple. If soil is dry 2 inches below the surface, it's time to water. That last sentence can save a garden. If the soil is dry 2 inches down, Water. If it is still moist 2 inches down, wait. This one habit breaks the cycle of emotional watering. It moves the decision away from anxiety and back to evidence. The surface of the soil can fool you. A windy day can dry the top crust while the root zone remains moist. Mulch can look dry while the soil beneath is perfectly fine. A plant may droop temporarily in afternoon heat because leaves are losing water faster than roots can replace it in that moment. By evening, it may recover. Watering every time leaves look tired teaches the gardener to chase symptoms rather than understand conditions. The mistake becomes especially common in gardens with automatic irrigation. A sprinkler system is convenient, and convenience can be dangerous when it removes observation. A timer does not know that it rained yesterday. It does not know that one bed is shaded after 3 in the afternoon while another is exposed all day. It does not know that clay soil in the lower part of the yard drains slowly. It simply runs. In many American yards, the irrigation schedule is set once in spring and then forgotten. The landscape changes, the weather changes, the plants mature, the soil stays wet, and the system keeps applying water. The garden may look green for a while, then weak. Leaves yellow, growth slows, roots struggle, disease pressure rises. The sprinkler did what it was told. The soil paid the price. Overhead watering adds another layer of trouble. Water landing on leaves can evaporate before it reaches roots, especially in heat. When leaves stay wet overnight, some disease and pest problems become more likely. The Royal Horticultural Society recommends watering early in the morning because evaporation is lower and plants can use the water through the day. Iowa State Extension also recommends morning watering so foliage can dry quickly and plants enter the hottest part of the day hydrated. The best water is usually quiet water, a drip line at the base of the plant, a soaker hose running slowly, a watering wand aimed at soil rather than leaves, a container watered until excess drains out, then left alone until the mix begins to dry appropriately. These methods send moisture where roots live and reduce waste. The goal is infiltration rather than performance. A dramatic spray looks productive. Deep moisture matters more. The danger becomes even more visible in containers. A raised bed gives roots more room than a small pot. Ground soil can drain and buffer moisture in ways that a container cannot. A pot is a confined system. Every watering decision has consequences. Too little drainage, a saucer left full after rain, a decorative pot without holes, or heavy potting mix that stays saturated can turn a container into a root rot chamber. University of Maryland Extension identifies too much water, too frequent watering, and inadequate drainage as leading causes of overwatering in container vegetables, warning that they can lead to root rot and other diseases. The same guidance recommends emptying saucers and improving drainage. University of Minnesota Extension also advises against letting indoor plants stand in water because overwatering and poor drainage can cause root rot and encourage fungus gnats. That is why a container plant can collapse even when the owner never missed the day. Sometimes the discipline is leaving it alone. Many gardeners mistake routine for consistency. They water every morning because they are committed. They water every evening because it feels peaceful. They water the same amount in May, July, and September. They give every plant the same treatment. A rosemary plant and a lettuce bed do not want the same life. A tomato in a 5-gallon grow bag on a patio does not behave like a tomato planted in deep garden soil. A new shrub needs different attention from an established shrub. A clay bed at the bottom of a slope needs different handling from a sandy bed near a driveway. A garden is a collection of different water economies all living close together. This is why professional growers and experienced gardeners develop the habit of checking. They touch the soil. They dig a small hole. They lift containers to feel weight. They notice which beds dry first. They learn how rain actually enters their ground. They watch for runoff. They understand that water sitting on top of soil is a warning, while water slowly soaking down is progress. The hand is still one of the best garden instruments. Push a finger into the soil.
use a trowel, check beneath mulch, look below the crust. In containers, feel the potting mix below the surface and learn the weight difference between a wet pot and a pot ready for water. These small acts prevent the gardener from making decisions based only on the look of leaves.
The signs of overwatering deserve careful attention because they are often misunderstood. Lower leaves may yellow, growth may slow, stems can become soft near the base, soil may smell sour. Fungus gnats may appear around constantly wet containers. Leaves may wilt even though the soil is wet. A plant may drop leaves as stress deepens. Roots, when examined, may look brown, black, mushy, or reduced rather than pale and firm. Missouri Botanical Garden explains that overwatering is among the more common causes of plant problems, especially in heavy or poorly drained soils. Roots in waterlogged soil can die because they cannot absorb the oxygen they need, and damaged roots can no longer supply water and nutrients to the plant. The damage is often misdiagnosed as pest damage. That misdiagnosis sends gardeners down expensive roads. They buy sprays. They change fertilizer. They prune too aggressively. They blame insects. They replace plants with the same varieties in the same wet conditions. Meanwhile, the root environment remains unchanged. A collapsing plant can become a mystery because the visible part is only the evidence. The real crime scene is underground. Take a tomato plant as an example. It begins strong in early summer. The gardener waters lightly each morning because the days are getting hot. The top inch stays damp. Roots stay shallow. Then a humid week arrives with afternoon storms, followed by the sprinkler schedule continuing as usual. The leaves yellow near the bottom. Growth slows. The plant wilts in the afternoon. The gardener adds more water. From above, the decision seems compassionate. Below, the soil is saturated. The roots cannot breathe properly. Some begin to die. As roots decline, the plant becomes less able to take up water, so the foliage wilts. The gardener interprets wilt as thirst, and the cycle accelerates. This is the slow kill. It is slow because the plant may survive for weeks. It is a kill because once enough root tissue is lost, recovery becomes difficult. The same pattern appears with hydrangeas near downspouts, hostas in compacted shade beds, peppers in decorative pots, boxwoods planted in heavy clay, and herbs kept constantly damp on kitchen windowsills. The plants differ. The pattern repeats. Too much kindness becomes pressure. The solution begins before the plant reaches collapse. First, stop watering on autopilot. Let the soil make the request. If the root zone is moist, pause. If it is dry at the proper depth, water thoroughly. Second, change the style of watering. A quick splash across the top encourages dependence near the surface. A slow soak encourages roots to explore downward. The water should have time to enter the soil rather than run across it. On sloped beds or compacted soil, this may require watering in cycles. Apply some water, pause, then return so the ground can absorb it. Third, water the base. Leaves are the display. Roots are the customer. The plant benefits when water reaches the soil where absorption happens. Drip irrigation, soaker hoses, and careful hand watering all support this principle. Fourth, use mulch intelligently. Mulch reduces evaporation, buffers soil temperature, and limits the crusting that can make water run off. Yet mulch should never become a wet blanket against stems or trunks. Deep mulch piled against plant crowns can trap moisture where disease often begins. Oregon State Extension notes that deep mulch and overwatering can contribute to waterlogged soils, and wet soils under heavy mulch make plants more susceptible to root rot diseases. Fifth, fix drainage before repeating the same failure. In containers, drainage holes are essential. Saucers should be emptied. Potting mix should suit the plant. In beds, organic matter can improve structure over time.
Raised beds can help where drainage is poor, and plants that hate wet roots should be moved away from low spots where water collects. This is where the issue becomes less about watering and more about design. Many gardens fail because plants are placed according to appearance while their water needs are ignored. A drought-tolerant lavender beside a thirsty vegetable bed creates conflict. A moisture-loving plant near a dry foundation struggles. A shrub that wants drainage, planted in compacted clay beside a driveway, may decline for years, with every symptom treated separately. Good watering begins with good placement. Hydrozoning, the practice of grouping plants with similar water needs, sounds technical, yet the logic is simple. Put thirsty plants together. Put dry-loving plants together. Keep containers with similar needs close enough that they can be checked as a group. A garden becomes easier to manage when it stops asking one sprinkler zone to satisfy 5 different root systems.
The larger cultural problem is that watering has become a symbol of care. A person who waters daily looks attentive. A person who waits can feel negligent. Yet gardening often rewards restraint. The skilled gardener is rarely the one doing the most. It is the person who notices when action helps and when action harms. That distinction matters more as summers become hotter in many places and water becomes more expensive. Overwatering wastes a resource, weakens plants, and can make gardens less resilient during real heat stress. Underwatering remains a serious problem, of course. A dry root ball can kill quickly. Seedlings, new transplants, containers, and shallow-rooted crops need close attention. The answer is never indifference. The answer is accuracy. A new transplant may need frequent checks because its root system is limited. A mature shrub may need deep soaking less often. A hanging basket in wind may dry quickly. A mulched perennial bed may hold moisture for days. A vegetable garden in sandy soil may need more frequent irrigation than the same garden in loam. Local rainfall matters, shade matters, wind matters, plant age matters, soil texture matters. The hose should respond to all of that. A simple recovery plan can begin today. Walk through the garden without watering first. Look for wilted plants, then check the soil around them at depth. If the soil is dry below the surface, water deeply and slowly. If the soil is wet and the plant is wilting, step back. Remove any standing water from containers. Clear blocked drainage holes. Pull mulch away from crowns and stems. Avoid adding fertilizer to a stressed, waterlogged plant because damaged roots may struggle to use it. Give the root zone air, time, and better conditions. Some plants will recover. You may see firmer leaves, new growth, and improved color after the watering rhythm changes. Others may be too far gone, especially if root rot has destroyed much of the root system. Oregon State Extension's houseplant guidance is blunt about severe root rot, noting there may be very little to do once it has developed. That sounds discouraging, yet it is also useful. It means prevention carries more value than rescue. The best gardeners do not wait for collapse before adjusting. They learn the difference between dry and merely hot. They learn the difference between a surface crust and a dry root zone. They learn that a yellow leaf can mean too much water. They learn that wilting can come from roots that are drowning rather than roots that are thirsty. Most of all, they learn to stop treating water as a daily apology. Water is a tool. Used well, it builds strength underground before beauty appears above. Used carelessly, it creates dependency, disease, and decline. The garden gives clues long before it fails. A sour smell from a pot, soil that stays wet for days, leaves yellowing from the bottom, a plant that wilts while sitting in damp ground, runoff from a bed that never seems to absorb water, fungus gnats hovering around an indoor container. These are warnings from the root zone. The fix is quiet and practical. Check before watering. Soak deeply when watering is needed. Let the soil breathe between sessions. Aim for the roots rather than the leaves. Improve drainage.
Match plants to the places where they can actually live. A garden rarely collapses from one bad watering. It collapses from a pattern repeated with good intentions. The tragedy is that the gardener often thinks the plant was saved again and again, right up until the morning it does not stand back up. The next time a plant droops, pause before reaching for the hose. Go to the soil. That is where the truth is. A healthy garden is built beneath the surface first. The leaves only report what the roots have been living with. When the roots have moisture, oxygen, space, and time, the plant can handle more heat, more wind, and more stress than it could under daily shallow rescue. The watering mistake that kills gardens slowly is easy to make because it looks like love. Stopping it requires a better kind of care. Less panic, more observation. Less routine, more attention to the ground. And when the soil finally tells you it is time, water with purpose. Deep enough to matter, slow enough to enter. Then step away and let the roots do what healthy roots are meant to do.